Salvete discipuli. A very well-respected historian of the ancient Roman Empire declared that Julius Caesar is the greatest name in history. Now, of course, we must exclude our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but certainly of all sinful men and women who have ever lived on this earth, none did more to move history and to have an effect on the world than Gaius Julius Caesar, who lived between the years 100 BC and 44 BC. In this Magister Piece Theater, we're going to begin reading a very simple biography of this general and leader of Rome during the time in which he lived. And in a few Magister Piece Theater episodes from now, we'll take up William Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, which is a very entertaining and well-written account, a fictional account of Caesar's assassination and its effects on the Roman Empire. But today, we take up the biography of Caesar himself. So come on in, gather round, as we find out who was Julius Caesar. More than 2,000 years ago, a 25-year-old man from Rome was traveling by boat to the Greek island of Rhodes. He was going to study public speaking there. Suddenly, another ship appeared, a ship full of pirates. They were from Cilicia, what's now southern Turkey. Cilician pirates were feared throughout the ancient world. They were known to hijack large trading ships, steal the cargo, and sell the passengers into slavery. But these pirates were not interested in making a slave of the young man from Rome. He was too important for that. He came from a famous family and was known for his bravery in battle. The Romans would pay a high ransom for his return. The young man knew this. So when the pirates were set to demand 20 talents for his freedom, he laughed in their faces. A man of his fame was surely worth 50 talents. That would be more than $30 million in today's money. Messengers were sent ashore with the pirates' ransom demand, while back aboard the pirate ship, the young man did not act worried at all. He joined in the pirates' exercises and games. If the pirates were too loud when he wanted to sleep, he sent his servant to tell them to quiet down. Sometimes he made his captors listen to him recite poems and speeches he had written. If they acted bored, he called them stupid and threatened to have them killed the first chance he got. The pirates thought, what a joke! What could one prisoner do to a whole gang of pirates? After more than a month, the ransom finally arrived. The young man was set free. As soon as he got back on dry land, he raised a fleet of warships and returned to punish the pirates. The pirate ship was right where it had been. With little trouble, he captured the entire group and imprisoned them in a nearby Roman town. But was this enough to satisfy the young man's desire for revenge? No. He took each and every one of the pirates and had them killed. No one messed with this man known as Julius Caesar. Those who did lived to regret it, if they were lucky enough to escape with their lives. Over his lifetime, Julius Caesar doubled the size of the Roman Republic. He ruled over it single-handedly as dictator for life, the first man to do so in nearly 500 years. Julius Caesar changed Rome and the world forever. Chapter 1. Young Caesar. Julius Caesar was born in Rome in the year 100 BC. As a boy, he was tall and slender, with a full round face, dark hair, and intense black eyes. Julius Caesar was named after his father. His mother's name was Aurelia, and his two older sisters were both named Julia. That was probably very confusing. His family lived in Subura, a poor neighborhood of crowded apartment buildings. Many former slaves and foreigners lived there. Caesar's family was not rich or powerful, but they were patricians. This meant they were Romans of noble blood. They traced their roots back hundreds of years. Caesar's family said they were descended directly from Venus, Roman goddess of love and beauty. No one in Caesar's family had done anything very important in many years. As his parents' only son, much was expected of young Caesar. His father taught him to fight with the Roman warrior's weapon of choice, a long spear, a short sword, and a shield. Caesar learned to swim in the Tiber River and to ride horses on the field of Mars. He wasn't the biggest or strongest boy, but Caesar worked hard. He was such a good horseman, he could ride with his arms behind his back, without a saddle. At home, Caesar learned basic reading, writing, and math skills from his mother and a private tutor, a slave from Greece. When Caesar grew older, he learned Greek. He also read and wrote poetry and perfected his skill at oratory, speaking before crowds. Being a good orator was extremely important for anyone who wanted to be a leader. If you could speak powerfully, people could be persuaded to vote for the causes you believed in. When he was a young man, Caesar went to observe the Roman Senate debate, vote on laws, and go about the business of running the republic. Years later, Caesar would give his own speeches to the Senate. But for now, he simply watched. Chapter 2. Rome Divided. In the Republic, only two groups of people were allowed to vote: citizens of Rome and the lucky few outside Rome who were granted citizenship. They had to travel all the way to the capital to cast a vote. Most people in other cities held very little power. When Caesar was 9, the cities surrounding Rome rebelled and went to war. The Roman Senate chose Caesar's uncle Marius to put down the rebellion. Romans loved Marius. His armies had once saved the city from an invasion. Marius was born a poor man, but he had risen to power. He was elected one of the consuls 7 times. When Caesar's aunt, who was named Julia, just like his 2 sisters, and Marius wed, the family felt renewed pride. Their family name might once again be connected to greatness. Marius, however, was unable to put down the rebellion. So the wealthy men of the Senate picked a new general to lead the troops. They chose a man with piercing gray eyes named Sulla. He was not as popular as Marius was with the people of Rome, but he put down the rebellion. Now Sulla was promoted to lead armies in the east, where war was breaking out in another corner of the Republic. Sulla's promotion made Marius very unhappy. Marius wanted to be the top general. He was the man the Romans adored, especially the poorer citizens of Rome. Sulla fought only to please the wealthy men in the Senate. Rome became a city divided, some behind Sulla, some behind Marius. Sulla wanted to make the Senate more powerful. Marius wanted more power for the popular assembly and for Rome's poorer citizens. His troops, however, were no match for Sulla and his army when they returned to Rome. Sulla's army burned down buildings and killed many people. Sulla was a Roman general. A Roman army had never marched on Rome. There was nothing Marius could do but flee the city. Sulla traveled east again with his troops, but Marius was not ready to give up the fight. He teamed up with a man named Cinna. They returned to Rome with their own army and began killing Sulla's supporters. Some victims had their heads chopped off and stuck to the ends of spears. They were displayed in the Forum for all of Rome to see. Marius and Cinna became consuls together. Now they ruled the city. Chapter 3. Picking a side. Caesar had grown up in Suburra, not in the hills above the city where the wealthy lived. He understood why his poor neighbors were frustrated with the Senate. The rich didn't understand or care about their problems. When Marius died, Caesar sided with Cinna. Around this time, Caesar's father also died suddenly. Now at 16, Caesar was head of the household. He needed a job. Cinna appointed him to become Flamen Dialis, the high priest of Jupiter. The god Jupiter was the protector of Rome. Being the god's high priest was an important job indeed. Caesar had to marry a girl of noble birth. So Cinna arranged for him to marry his daughter, Cornelia. As Flamen Dialis, Caesar's hair had to be cut with a bronze knife. No other kind was acceptable. Then the hair had to be buried. Caesar also wore a pointy hat made of fur. And the feet of his bed had to be covered in mud. There were more rules, 3 of which really upset Caesar. He was forbidden from riding horses, he couldn't be a soldier, and he couldn't leave the city for more than 3 nights at a time. Caesar needed more than a fur hat to bring honor to his family. It was a difficult time for a man to make a name for himself in Rome. Cinna had grown mad with power. Wealthy citizens were being murdered by angry mobs. Word came that Sulla and his forces were returning to Rome, and Cinna led his troops to meet the enemy. Cinna's troops realized they were no match for Sulla's army, so what did they do? They murdered their own commander. But Cinna's death wasn't enough to satisfy Sulla. Once more, Sulla marched on Rome. For the 3rd time in 6 years, the city was ablaze with Romans fighting Romans. In troubled times such as these, the Senate sometimes elected 1 consul instead of 2. This man was called a dictator, and he held all the power. They hadn't elected a dictator in nearly 100 years, but now they did. Sulla won the job easily. Sulla had always sided with the rich. He immediately extended the powers of the Senate and limited those of the popular assembly. He began clearing the city of his enemies. A list of names was posted in the forum. Anyone who killed a man on the list could keep of some of that man's property. The rest went to the government. Thousands were murdered. Naturally, Julius Caesar was on Sulla's list. After all, he was Marius's nephew and had married Cinna's daughter. Sulla ordered Caesar to divorce his wife immediately. When Caesar refused, Sulla became furious. No one told the dictator no. Sulla stripped Caesar of his job and his money. Fearing for his life, 19-year-old Caesar escaped to the mountains outside Rome. With Sulla's men hot on his trail, he changed locations every night. Back in Rome, his family pleaded for his life. Eventually, Sulla relented. Caesar was happy to come home, but he knew at any moment his life could be at risk again. So he became a soldier and left Rome. He would not return for years. Chapter 4. Man of the People. Caesar's first post was in Asia, in what's now western Turkey. He was assistant to the Roman governor. Before Rome had conquered the area, it had been ruled by a king named Mithridates. Some of Mithridates' allies were holed up on an island, refusing to surrender to Rome. Caesar's boss needed ships, and quickly, to reach the island and wipe out the enemy. Caesar got the ships from a nearby kingdom, and the battle was on. He fought with such bravery, he was awarded the Corona Civica, or civic crown. It was a simple wreath made of oak leaves. Soldiers were given the crown for risking their own life to save someone. When someone wearing the civic crown walked into a room, everyone, even powerful senators, stood to show their respect. Caesar was making a name for himself. Yet to rise to higher office and win honor for his family, Caesar knew he had to find a way to grab the public's attention and hold it. When news of Sulla's death in Rome reached Caesar, he must have been overjoyed. It had been 2 years. Now, Caesar could return to Rome and enter politics. He decided to become an advocate, which was a lot like being a lawyer. There was no such thing as a law degree in those times. Any educated man could act as an advocate. Trials were held at the forum, and many people showed up to watch. The better the advocate spoke, the more dramatic the trial, the bigger the crowd. The first case Caesar took was for a group of people from the Roman province of Macedonia. They had traveled all the way to Rome to seek justice from their former governor. The Macedonians claimed he had profited from money they'd paid in Roman taxes. This happened all the time in Rome's provinces. But the Macedonians still wanted their day in court. Being a good advocate wasn't just about what you said, it was also about how you said it. And Caesar's speech for the Macedonians was brilliant. He spoke passionately and vividly and really turned on the charm. Someone at the trial said that listening to Caesar speak was like seeing a portrait painted with words. Nearly everyone in the forum that day was impressed with Caesar, but the jury was made up entirely of wealthy senators. They ruled in favor of the former governor, not the Macedonians. Caesar had lost the trial. Nevertheless, he was doing what he'd set out to do. Romans were not going to forget his name. He had a new reputation as a masterful advocate for the little people. This would serve him well in the future. Chapter 5. On the Rise. Not long after the trial, Caesar and Cornelia welcomed their first daughter to the world, and guess what Caesar named her? Julia. Soon Caesar was on the move again. If he wanted the good life for his wife and daughter, he had to become an even better orator and soldier. So he set off for the Greek island of Rhodes to study with the great philosophers and orators of the day. It was on this journey that he was kidnapped by pirates. But back in Asia, the rebel forces of King Mithridates were causing trouble again, so Caesar had to abandon his plan for Rhodes. Instead, Caesar rushed to help the Roman governor in Asia. In Caesar's judgment, the governor was not acting strong enough. So what did Caesar do? He took over the army and led them into battle himself, defeating the rebels. This was against the law. The governor was supposed to call the shots in his province. But Caesar didn't care. He'd do anything to bring glory to his family and to Rome. No one at home would ever cheer his name if he sat back and played by the rules. Caesar, now 27 years old, received word from Rome. He'd been elected to public office. It was time to return home once again. Caesar was elected pontifex. He was now an even more important priest than he'd been before. It was another step up the Roman ladder of success. Luckily, the rules for being a pontifex were not so strict, and Caesar could remain a soldier. A couple of years later, Caesar was elected to another post as quaestor. This was a government official who did any number of things for the Republic. There was a quaestor in charge of Rome's water supply, for example. Caesar was probably thrilled to be assigned a post in faraway Spain. He had seen the eastern reaches of the Republic when he was a soldier in Asia. Now, as an important representative of Rome, he would journey west, to the edge of the known world. Just as he was preparing to leave, tragedy struck when Caesar's wife died. The two had known each other since they were teenagers. Caesar was broken-hearted. However, it did not stop him. Shortly after the funeral, he went to Spain. Caesar met with locals and listened to their problems, acting as a judge to settle disputes and gaining a reputation as a fair man. He returned to Rome by land so he could stop in northern Italy. In this area, the people yearned for Roman citizenship in order to enjoy the many rights that came with it. Caesar said he would do what he could to help. He was making friends and allies all over the Republic now. Caesar could find political opportunity almost anywhere. Just before Cornelia had died, his beloved Aunt Julia passed away. Caesar arranged her funeral and gave a speech honoring her. Rome's ruling class still considered Aunt Julia's husband, Caesar's uncle Marius, to be a bloodthirsty murderer. So it would have been smart for Caesar to keep the funeral private and quiet. But of course, Caesar had other ideas. The funeral was held at the Forum. Caesar knew that most Romans still loved Marius, so Caesar led a long parade of people carrying large paintings of his aunt and his uncle. Displaying pictures of Marius had been banned by Sulla 15 years before. Now, veterans of Marius's armies wept openly at seeing his face after so many years. Caesar gave a powerful speech, as much about his ancestors as it was about Aunt Julia. He told the crowd, "The family of my Aunt Julia is descended from kings on her mother's side, and through her father from the gods themselves. My family therefore holds the sanctity of kings who rule among men and of gods who rule over kings." This was a smart way for Caesar to remind people of his noble background. Now, when they thought of Caesar, they'd think of kings and gods, and of Marius, beloved savior of Rome. That day, chants of "Caesar" and "Marius" echoed through Rome. After his post in Spain, Caesar held a number of jobs in Rome. One was organizing public festivals and games. Here was another opportunity for Caesar to make his name known among the Romans. He borrowed tons of money to create lavish spectacles. For one event, Caesar brought together more than 600 of the Republic's best gladiators. Memories of Spartacus's rebellion were still fresh. Some feared that Caesar was trying to start another rebellion. But Caesar had other plans. He dressed the gladiators in pure silver. The crowds were dazzled as the sun reflected off so much shiny armor. Julius Caesar could really put on a show. Soon, Caesar's name was on everyone's tongue. From one end of the Republic to the other, he had made friends and gained their support. He was well on his way to the very top of Roman politics.